always felt uneasy working the night shift, but that night, the fear is real. Someone is outside watching me. My name is Ji-yoon, and I work the night shift at a small convenience store in Seoul. I thought working nights would be peaceful, but lately, things have changed. It started a few weeks ago when I noticed someone was always around. Every night when I'd leave work, I'd see the same man. He wore a dark hoodie, and his face was always hidden in shadows. At first, I thought it was just a coincidence. I tell myself, it's just someone passing by. But soon, it felt like he was following me. Every corner I turned, he was there, standing under the streetlights, watching. One night, I decided to take a different route home, hoping to shake him off. But when I looked behind me, there he was again. I quickened my pace, trying not to panic. My heart raced, and I felt my hands shake. I tried calling a friend, but the line wouldn't connect. The streets were empty, and the silence felt suffocating. When I thought I lost him, I was walking through a quiet alley, almost home, when I heard footsteps behind me. They were slow at first, then faster. I didn't dare turn around, but I could feel him getting closer. Suddenly, I heard him whisper my name, Ji-yoon. I ran. I don't think I've ever run that fast in my life. When I got home, I slammed the door behind me and locked it. I thought I was safe, but then my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. The message read, "You can't run forever." I never saw his face, but I know he's still out there, watching, waiting. I don't work night shifts anymore. Guys, comment your names. I will use your names in upcoming stories. Guys, have you heard the story of a woman who killed her own children and then cooked them? This story is from Philippines and based on true event. The story revolves around a woman named Lucia, who is well known in her community as a mother of 4 young children. Over time, she developed severe mental illness, likely due to years of poverty, isolation, and untreated depression. Neighbors reported that Lucia had begun acting strangely, often seen muttering to herself or staring blankly for hours. One dark night, something in Lucia snapped. In a horrifying act, she killed her own children, believing she was protecting them from evil spirits that, she claimed, haunted their home. What made this story even more chilling was that after the murders, Lucia reportedly cooked parts of their bodies, believing it would cleanse their souls and free them from the spirit's torment. When the authorities arrived after concerned neighbors reported strange noises and the absence of the children, they found Lucia sitting in her kitchen, detached from reality, with evidence of the horrifying crimes scattered around her. This story left the small town in shock for decades, with many claiming the house where it occurred became haunted by the spirits of Lucia's children, whose cries for help could still be heard late at night. If this story gives you chills, leave a comment. The story of Hansanko is one of Japan's terrifying legends. It is said to be about a ghostly woman who haunts a secluded village deep in the mountains. Long ago, the villagers believed in an old tradition. When a woman's husband died, she had to live in isolation, away from the village, in a small wooden cabin. This was to mourn her husband. But one woman, Hansanko, was different. Hansanko's husband died unexpectedly, and she was forced into isolation. As the days passed, she became angry and filled with despair. No one came to check on her. The villagers whispered that something was wrong, that Hansanko's grief was turning into something far more dangerous. One stormy night, villagers reported hearing her screams echoing through the valley. The next morning, they found her cabin door open, but Hansanko was gone. Some say she died that night, but others believe her rage transformed her into something else. Now, on stormy nights, villagers and travelers claim to see her spirit, her eyes wide with madness, her face twisted in anger. She is searching for revenge, luring lost souls into the forest, never to be seen again. People say if you hear Hansanko scream at night, do not follow it, no matter how desperate or scared it sounds, or you'll be the next victim to vanish into the darkness. True scary story. A few months ago, something strange happened. I got home from work one evening and noticed an old, creepy doll sitting on my porch. It was small, maybe about a foot tall, with a faded dress and messy hair. The worst part was its eyes, wide, glassy, and staring right at me. don't have kids, and I definitely don't collect dolls, so I had no idea where it came from. At first, I thought it was some kind of prank, and just ignored it, leaving it on the porch. The next day, the doll was still there, sitting in the exact same spot, still staring. That night, I was relaxing on the couch when I heard light footsteps outside. I thought someone was walking by, but when I looked out the window, no one was there. Later, around midnight, I heard scratching at my front door, like tiny nails dragging across it. My heart was racing, but I decided to check. When I opened the door, the doll was lying on its side, closer to the door, like it had moved on its own. Over the next few days, things only got worse. Every time I walked past the front door, I'd hear faint whispers, like someone talking just outside. Sometimes, the doll would be in a slightly different position, but I tried to convince myself it was nothing. One night, I heard a soft giggle, like a little girl's laugh, coming from outside. It sent chills down my spine. The final straw was one night when I woke up in bed with a strange feeling. I turned on the lamp, and there, at the foot of my bed, was the doll, sitting upright and staring at me with those cold, unblinking eyes. I don't know how it got inside, but I was terrified. I grabbed the doll, threw it in a trash bag, and drove miles out of town to get rid of it. Since then, the noises have stopped, and everything's been quiet, but I'll never forget those eyes, watching me, like they were waiting for something. How would you rate this story? Share your rating in comments. True story of Okiku, the hair-growing doll, is one of Japan's most chilling legends. In 1918, a young boy named Eikichi Suzuki bought a beautiful doll in Sapporo for his little sister, Okiku. The doll was about 40 centimeters tall, with black hair and a traditional kimono. Okiku loved the doll and played with it every day, but tragedy struck when Okiku suddenly became ill and died at a very young age. Her grieving family placed the doll on the household altar to honor her memory. That's when the strange things began to happen. At first, the family noticed something subtle. The doll's black hair seemed to grow. Over time, it became clear that the hair, which had once been neatly trimmed, was growing longer and wilder, almost as if it was alive. No matter how often the family cut the doll's hair, it would keep growing back. The family believed that Okiku's spirit had entered the doll and was unable to move on. Over time, they became afraid of it, especially as they began to hear faint whispers and feel cold drafts around the doll. In 1938, the family decided to give the doll to Meninji Temple in Hokkaido, hoping the monks could take care of it. Even today, the doll remains in the temple, and its hair still grows. The monks occasionally trim it, but it continues to lengthen, as if the spirit of little Okiku is still inside, restless and watching. Everything was peaceful on Earth. We lived our normal lives, never expecting what would happen next. My name is Emily. I used to work as a writer, creating stories from the safety of my small apartment. But those days feel like a distant memory now. It started with strange lights in the sky. People thought it was just a natural phenomenon, or maybe some new technology being tested. But then they came. Creatures unlike anything we had ever seen. They weren't like the aliens from movies. They were terrifying, with long limbs, glowing eyes, and twisted forms that filled us with dread. They didn't speak. They just invaded, controlling everything. It didn't take long for them to destroy the cities. We fought, but it was useless. Their technology was far superior, and their numbers seemed endless. Soon, they had control of the entire planet. They were everywhere, hunting us down, enslaving anyone who was unlucky enough to be found. I managed to escape with a group of survivors. Now, we hide in caves, deep in the forests, far from the cities. Life has changed so much. Every day is a struggle, just to stay alive. We move at night, avoiding the creatures that roam the land. We can't risk being seen. How would you rate this story? Share your rating in comments. Guys, have you heard the scary story of Yoon-suk, a student from Japan? Yoon-suk was a quiet, hard-working student, always polite and loved by her teachers. One day, she mysteriously disappeared. No one saw her leave the school, and she never returned home. The police searched everywhere, but they couldn't find any trace of her. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. Years passed, and people began to forget about Yoon-suk. But strange things started happening at the school. Late at night, students and teachers reported seeing a girl in the hallways. She would stand at the end of the corridor, staring blankly ahead. Her face was pale, her eyes hollow, and she didn't say a word. When anyone tried to approach her, she would disappear into thin air, just like Yoon-suk had. Some say that her spirit is trapped, wandering the school forever, searching for something. Maybe answers, maybe peace. But the scariest part? No one knows what really happened to Yoon-suk that day.